Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we take your source material, pull it apart, and deliver the essential insights, making sure you leave feeling thoroughly but efficiently informed.
And today's mission, it's an interesting one. It's one part botany and, I guess, one part digital archaeology.
It really is. Our entire source stack is built on what looks like a tiny entry. It's a blog post from December 22, 2025, on a site called kienmen.org. The title is Notes on Gardening, Part 753, The Evergreen Charm of the Pink Lady.
It's that number that just stops you cold, isn't it? Part 753.
Yeah.
I mean, that number implies years, just years of consistent, meticulous documentation. But the real hook, as you said, is who's writing it. He calls himself an old software plumber.
Exactly. So you've got this highly technical mind, someone who architects complex digital systems.
Right.
And he's maintaining this incredibly detailed nature journal that's over 750 entries deep.
So that's the mission.
That's our mission. We're going to pull out two things for you. First, the specific practical knowledge about this plant, the pink lady. And second, the bigger lesson here about where you can find, genuine deep expertise today.
It's a perfect case study, really. It makes you ask, what happens when a mindset that's all about system maintenance gets applied to the beautiful chaos of the natural world?
Okay, let's unpack this. Let's start with the plant, the discovery itself. Ang, the author, he finds it in an open balcony garden.
And what's so telling is that he wasn't immediately impressed.
Yeah.
He notes it required close inspection to really see what was going on, and that right there tells you everything about the kind of observer he is.
He's not looking for the flashy stuff.
Not at all. He's not looking for the biggest bloom. He's performing a kind of structural analysis.
And he even says the flowers weren't really the point. I think they were already wilted in his photo. What actually got his attention, the thing that made him stop and, take notes, was its function. How it worked as a lush and uniform foliage ground cover.
He saw it as a solution to a problem. A good ground cover is like clean code infrastructure.
That's a great analogy.
It does its job reliably. You don't always see it, but the whole system depends on it. The fact he was judging its performance first, that says a lot.
And that mindset, it just immediately kicks into action. The post doesn't just end with, oh, nice plant.
No, it ends with a plan.
A plan.
Yeah.
Obtain a sample for further evaluation. He needs to test it. Its hardiness, how fast it spreads.
He's running his own tests. It's primary research, really, all packed into one blog post.
Which is why we can trust the details, and why it's worth understanding what makes this plant, Heterotis rotundifolia, so special.
Definitely. If you're looking for something low maintenance or reliable green carpet for your garden, this is one to know.
Okay, so let's get into that. Let's decode the charm of the pink lady. What are the key takeaways that Ang pulled out?
Well, first off, the name itself can be a little misleading.
How so?
As a species, Heterotis rotundifolia does get these beautiful flowers. They're typically 5-petaled, deep magenta or purple. But as a gardener, you only get those blooms sometimes.
So the real consistent value is the foliage, the ground cover itself.
Precisely. It's the consistency. This plant is fantastic at forming a dense, durable, carpet-like mat. So if you're trying to stop soil erosion or keep weeds down or just get a consistent green texture, that feature is gold. It's low-growing, it's robust.
But let's go back to the name. If the flowers are purple and leaves are green, where's the pink?
And that's the detail. This is the piece of actionable knowledge that Ang highlights.
Okay.
The name Pink Lady doesn't really come from the flowers, it comes from the foliage. It develops this really striking reddish-pink color.
On the leaves themselves.
On the stems and the edges of the leaves.
That doesn't happen all the time, right? There's a trigger for it.
Exactly. It's completely dependent on light. The source is very clear on this. That pink color only shows up when the plant gets hit with bright sunlight.
So in the shade.
In the shade, it stays a rich, lush green. It's this amazing variable feature.
So you basically have two different looks from one plant, just depending on where you put it.
You do.
A sophisticated, uniform green on a shaded balcony, but move it into a sunny spot, and you start getting these vibrant pink highlights. It's like a botanical suntan.
It is, and it shows that Ang wasn't just cataloging a plant. He was digging into its response mechanisms. He saw the functional ground cover, and then he researched the variables that made it look its best. You just don't get that level of detail in most gardening articles.
Which brings us to the next part of this deep dive, and maybe the more profound part. The plant is fascinating, sure. But what makes this one observation so authoritative? Why should you trust this guy? We have to analyze the source. The software plumber himself.
And it comes down to credibility from just pure, relentless consistency. When you look at his blog archive, the pattern is just overwhelming.
It's part 753.
Part 753. He posted over 700 times in 2025, over 730 times in 2024. This isn't a casual hobby.
That frequency is.
Yeah.
It's wild. But let me push back on that for a second. Couldn't that just be, quantity over quality, a fire hose of surface-level thoughts?
It's a fair question, and that's where thinking about him as a software plumber is so key. What does a plumber do?
They fix things. They deal with systems.
They deal with hidden complexity, right? Maintenance, diagnostics, finding tiny leaks that only show up under specific conditions. They specialize in system reliability.
So you're saying the huge volume of posts isn't superficial.
Yeah.
It's systemic logging.
Exactly. It's a complete record of continuous observation. And when you look at his other projects on the blog, you see it's just how he operates.
What do you mean?
He keeps these incredibly detailed logs on super complex programming languages like Erlang, which is all about high availability systems, right next to notes on Python, AI, machine learning.
So you're connecting the dots. His ability to track how one tiny bit of code affects a whole system, that translates perfectly to tracking how soil, humidity, and, crucially, light affect the pink lady.
He's treating the garden like a complex biological system that needs constant monitoring.
And he's doing it through an open source lens.
That's the key, that idea of floss-free and open source software. In that world, documentation is everything. You don't just fix a bug.
Right.
You document the problem, the environment, your solution, and you publish it for everyone to use and verify.
So that open source culture, that need for detailed public records, he's applying that directly to his garden notes.
He is. He's creating a primary research journal for shared knowledge, not for profit. That's why you can trust the information. You see his support for groups like the EFF and Wikipedia, and it all clicks into place.
All about open, accessible knowledge.
Exactly. His gardening notes are just another knowledge repository, but built with the same rigor as someone maintaining a massive mission-critical piece of software. He's a polymath, and the unifying skill is meticulous public documentation.
It's a fantastic realization, really. The best gardener might be the person who brings the most rigorous, systematic mindset to the soil. It's about the method, not the job title.
It totally shifts how you think about credentials. He's not a botanist, but he is a hyper-prolific, detail-oriented field researcher. So when he says the pink lady's color depends on sunlight,
You can bet he's logged enough observations to verify it.
without a doubt.
Okay, let's synthesize these two threads now. Let's bring it back to what this all means for you, the learner. We have the specific knowledge about the plant, and we have this bigger lesson about expertise.
The practical knowledge is pretty straightforward. Heterotis rotundifolia is an excellent, durable, evergreen ground cover. Simple as that. But if you want that aesthetic payoff, that unique pink color, you have to understand it's a controlled variable. It's activated by bright sunlight on the stems and leaf edges. That one detail is everything.
That's the actionable advice from part 753.
And the meta lesson is about learning to spot hidden expertise. Ang's entire archive shows you that super specialized, useful, and validated knowledge is often just hiding in plain sight.
Maintained by people who might call themselves plumbers or tinkerers.
Right, but who apply a level of systematic rigor that, it often surpasses more formal efforts.
So this deep dive is kind of a guide for finding those other hidden experts.
It is. Look for that extreme consistency. Look for the deep notes, the cross-referencing, that open source mindset. Even if the author is blogging about fishkeeping one day and Haskell code the next, that systematic approach is the signal. That's the tell. If we connect this to the bigger picture, this kind of personal, highly detailed journal is becoming one of the most valuable forms of primary research out there. It's a real commitment to knowledge.
So what does this all mean? We've learned the pink lady is a beautiful, versatile plant with this cool, sunlight-activated color trick. And we know the author is a hyper-reliable source because of his background. He connects his software work to his botanical work. But you have to remember, the story's never really finished. The blogger said his plan was to obtain a sample for further evaluation.
It's always iterative, always looking for the next piece of data.
So the next logical question for you to explore is just that continuous nature of learning that this guy, Ang, embodies. What were the findings and notes on gardening, part 754?
Where he presumably set up his new sample.
Or part 760, after a few months.
Yeah.
The deep dive never really ends. It's just the constant pursuit of the next entry in the journal.